Hey there, welcome back. Tonight, we're not heading to the Wild West of Hollywood. No sweeping orchestras, no gleaming six-shooters at high noon, no stoic cowboys riding into the sunset. Tonight, we're stepping into the real 1870s frontier. The one where the air reeks of unwashed bodies and raw sewage. Where your breakfast might be crawling with weevils. Where a simple cut could kill you. Where survival wasn't a reality TV show. It was your daily, desperate reality. This isn't a story of heroes. It's a story of endurance, of grit, of ordinary people, men, women, children pushing their bodies and minds to the absolute limit just to see tomorrow. And honestly, if you were dropped into this world right now, you probably wouldn't make it 24 hours. So, dim the lights, maybe pour yourself a cup of real coffee, not the boiled, eggshell-laced sludge they called breakfast brew back then. Get comfortable, or as comfortable as you can, knowing what's coming. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support means everything, and it helps us keep telling these raw, unvarnished stories. And let me know in the comments where you're retuning in from and what time it is. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Whether you're listening at dawn in Tokyo or midnight in Madrid, we're in this together. All right, settle in. Over the next hour, we're breaking down 5 brutal, unforgettable days in the life of a frontier settler. Each day, a new layer of hardship. Each hour, a fight against nature, disease, isolation, and your own breaking body. We'll walk through day 1, waking up to the grim reality, where even your boots might try to kill you. Day 2, navigating the perils of town and travel, where the Oregon Trail wasn't a game. It was America's longest graveyard. Day 3, the brutal realities of frontier professions, mining, ranching, farming, all of them deadly in their own way. Day 4, the essentials of survival, food, family, and health, where childbirth was a death sentence, and dinner might be your undoing. Day 5, the end of the frontier, and the birth of a myth, how we turned genocide, exploitation, and suffering into a national legend. This is history without the filter, without the romance, just a truth, raw, uncomfortable, and utterly unforgettable. Let's begin at dawn. Hey there, welcome back. Tonight, we're not heading to the Wild West of Hollywood. No sweeping orchestras, no gleaming six-shooters at high noon. Tonight, you're waking up in the real 1870s frontier. And trust me, your first day is going to be a brutal, unvarnished shock to the system. The morning light filters through the cracks in your cabin walls, and you're not waking up to birdsong. You're waking up to the assault on the senses. Before you even open your eyes, it hits you, the thick, cloying stench of unwashed bodies, the acrid tang of animal droppings just outside, and the unmistakable, stomach-churning reek of what might be raw sewage. Bathing, that was a luxury, maybe once a month if you were lucky. Water was too precious to waste on something as frivolous as cleanliness. You drag yourself from your bed, a lumpy, straw-stuffed mattress that's lightly crawling with bed bugs, and you're immediately greeted by the physical toll. Every muscle screams. Your back, your shoulders, your hands, they're all locked in a dull, persistent ache. This isn't the satisfying soreness of a good workout. This is the deep, grinding pain of relentless, back-breaking labor. 14-hour days plowing fields, hauling water, chopping wood, or toiling deep in a mine shaft. No weekends, no vacations. Just work until your body breaks, and it will. The average lifespan out here, about 35 years. You stand on the cold, dusty floor, and that's when you feel it, battling the elements. If it's winter, your breath hangs in the air like smoke. Your cabin is a freezer, maybe 20 degrees below, because you let the fire die overnight to save precious fuel. Central heating, thermal underwear, forget it. And if it's summer, get ready to sweat through every scratchy layer of clothing you own. There's no escaping the brutal, unrelenting climate. Which brings us to the misery of clothing. Forget comfort or style. Men owned maybe 2 sets of rough, chafing canvas or denim. Women, they were trapped in a prison of layers, chemises, corsets, petticoats, long dresses dragging through the dirt regardless of the sweltering heat. Everything was ill-fitting, rarely washed, and designed for durability, not humanity. Those fancy Hollywood duds, pure fiction. Your stomach growls, a hollow reminder that it's time for breakfast. Hope you like a monotonous and unhealthy diet, beans, biscuits, and coffee. That's the holy trinity of the frontier, and you'll see it at every meal. Fresh fruits, vegetables, a seasonal luxury, if you're lucky. Meat was salted or smoked into oblivion because refrigeration was a dream. Scurvy, yes, the disease where your gums bleed and your teeth fall out, was terrifyingly common, even though it's easily preventable. And that coffee, don't get your hopes up. It's boiled to a bitter, tar-like sludge, often cut with crushed eggshells or even salt to try and tame the bitterness. You drink it anyway. The caffeine is your only lifeline. Before you even think about stepping outside, there's a ritual. The hidden dangers at dawn. You shake out your boots every single morning. Scorpions, spiders, or even a rattlesnake might have crawled in overnight seeking warmth. One wrong step, one sleepy misjudgment, and you're facing a venomous bite miles from anything resembling medical help. You step out into the open, and you're struck by the unforgiving landscape. Yes, it's breathtaking, the vast, open sky, the rolling plains, the distant mountains, but it's also deadly. This isn't a postcard, it's an adversary. Blizzards, tornadoes, flash floods, droughts, they can roll in with zero warning, turning paradise into a death trap in minutes. Maybe you think heading to town offers sanctuary. Think again. Town is just the illusion of safety. It's a hotbed of disease. No sewers, no understanding of germs, cholera, typhoid, smallpox, they rip through communities like wildfire. An outbreak can wipe out half the town before anyone knows what's hit them. And the saloon, forget the swinging doors and the tinkling piano. The myth of the saloon is just that, a myth. Most are crude, one-room shacks with rough plank bars. The whiskey is a toxic cocktail of raw alcohol, tobacco juice, turpentine, or even gunpowder. One drink could blind you. And it's here, fueled by this poison, that you find the truth about gun violence. Forget the noble duels. Most violence is drunken, impulsive, and over nothing, a spilled drink, a muttered insult. And here is the kicker. Many lawless towns, like Dodge City or Tombstone, had strict gun control. You had to check your iron at the door. The famous gunfight at the OK Corral. It started because the outlaws refused to disarm. The quick-draw artist facing off at high noon, almost entirely a Hollywood invention. If you get sick or hurt, you're in for the horror of frontier medicine. The doctor likely has no formal training. Surgery done without anesthesia, maybe just a shot of whiskey, and without sterilization. Bloodletting, mercury, arsenic, these were treatments that often killed you faster than the disease. Childbirth, a death sentence for 1 in 4 women in remote areas. Dentistry, just pull the tooth. No numbing, no fancy tools, just pliers and prayer. Lunchtime rolls around, and it's more of the same grim fare. But now you're thinking about the perils of frontier food. That tough, leathery meat. It's probably spoiled, preserved just enough to not kill you immediately. Food poisoning and dysentery are constant companions, and everything costs a fortune. A simple can of peaches might set you back the equivalent of $20 today. You're constantly reminded of the psychological weight of isolation. Mail is a rumor, newspapers are months out of date. You might never see your family back east again. This loneliness, this disconnection, eats away at you, fueling depression, alcoholism, and even suicide. As the afternoon wears on, you look up and see dark clouds gathering. This isn't just bad weather, it's the deadly power of weather. Without forecasts, A storm is a death sentence. A blizzard can freeze you solid. A tornado can erase your home. A flash flood can sweep you away. And your shelter, the fragility of shelter. Your cabin is a joke against the elements. Leaky roof, thin walls, no insulation. It's freezing in winter, an oven in summer, and that leaky roof. You put out buckets, not just to save your floor, but to the constant threat of fire. You cook and light your home with candles and oil lamps. One spark, one knocked over lantern, and your entire world, your home, your meager possessions goes up in smoke. There's no fire department coming to save you. As night falls and you prepare for another restless sleep on that bug-infested mattress, you realize the truth. The Wild West isn't about heroes. It's about endurance. It's about surviving the smell, the pain, the cold, the hunger, the disease, the isolation, and the ever-present, gnawing fear. It's about making it through one brutal, unrelenting day, just so you can do it all over again tomorrow. In this world, survival isn't guaranteed. It's earned, hour by hour, minute by minute. And as the wind howls outside, you wonder, will you even see the dawn? Day 2. Navigating the perils of town and travel, the morning light filters through the cracks in your cabin walls, and you're awake. Again, your body aches from yesterday's brutal introduction to the frontier. But there's no time to linger. The Wild West waits for no one. Today, you're leaving the relative if grim safety of your homestead. You're heading out, maybe to town for supplies, maybe to join a wagon train bound for Oregon, maybe just to see what's over the next ridge. Whatever your reason, travel in the 1870s frontier was an entirely different experience than what you're used to. Forget GPS, paved highways, or even the rumble of a diesel engine. Your journey begins with a simple, brutal truth, the reality of travel. Unless you were wealthy enough to afford the transcontinental railroad, and most weren't, you were going by horse, by wagon, or simply on foot. Owning a horse, consider yourself lucky. A good one cost months of wages, and keeping it fed, shod, and healthy was a constant, expensive chore, and riding wasn't some leisurely trail ride. Those 1870s saddles were torture devices designed for function, not comfort. Hours in the saddle meant blisters, a screaming back, and the ever-present fear of being thrown by a spooked animal, leaving you broken and miles from help. If you couldn't afford a horse, you were likely hitching a ride or walking alongside a wagon. Forget the romantic image of pioneers cheerfully rolling across pristine prairies. This was the Oregon Trail, America's longest graveyard. If you're joining a wagon train heading west, you're embarking on a 2,000-mile gauntlet. Of the 400,000 souls who attempted it, an estimated 40,000 didn't make it. That's one grave for every 350 feet of trail. The number one killer, disease, cholera, spread through contaminated water, was a silent, swift executioner. One moment you're healthy, by dinner, you're dead, your body drained of fluid. Dysentery, typhoid, mountain fever, they ripped through families huddled together in unsanitary conditions. Children were especially vulnerable, and there was no time to grieve. The psychological trauma of the trail was a constant companion. You buried your child under a makeshift cross, whispered a prayer, and then you had to climb back onto that jolting wagon and keep moving. The stress, the grief, the sheer exhaustion, it broke minds. Suicide was not uncommon. The trail wasn't paved with adventure. It was paved with desperation and loss, and the dangers weren't just invisible germs. Crossing rivers was a nightmare. Wagons weren't boats. They capsized, people drowned. Livestock was swept away. Firearms accidents were shockingly common, greenhorns fumbling with loaded rifles, turning a hunting trip into a funeral. Contrary to myth, attacks by Native Americans were relatively rare. Most tribes were helpful, offering guidance, supplies, or safe passage across rivers. The real violence on the trail, it was often impulsive, drunken, or born of sheer, grinding stress. As you travel, Perhaps you pass through a frontier town. It's not the neat, grid-lined main street of the movies. Towns grew haphazardly, a chaotic sprawl of wood and canvas. The first thing that hits you, the stench, horse manure is everywhere. Flies swarm in thick, black clouds. There are no sewers, no sanitation crews. In busy areas, the waste can be knee-deep. This isn't just unpleasant. It's the illusion of safety in town. Towns were hotbeds of disease. Cholera, typhoid, smallpox, they exploded here. Fueled by filth and ignorance of germs, an outbreak could wipe out half the population in weeks. You walk past the saloon, forget the swinging doors and the tinkling piano. The myth of the saloon is just that, a myth. Most are crude, one-room shacks. The whiskey is a toxic sludge or alcohol cut with tobacco juice, turpentine, or even gunpowder. One drink could blind you, and it's here, fueled by this poison, that you find the dark heart of frontier violence. These weren't noble duels, they were the mundanity of violence. Drunken brawls over a spilled drink, a muttered insult, a gambling debt, quick, messy, and over nothing. And here is the kicker. Many lawless towns, like Dodge City or Tombstone, had strict gun control. You had to check your iron at the door. The famous gunfight at the OK Corral. It started because the outlaws refused to disarm. The quick-draw artist facing off at high noon, almost entirely a Hollywood invention. If you get sick or hurt in town, you're in for the horror of frontier medicine. The doctor likely has no formal training, surgery. Done without anesthesia, maybe just a shot of whiskey, and without sterilization. Bloodletting, mercury, arsenic, these were treatments that often killed you faster than the disease. Childbirth, a death sentence for women in remote areas. As you move through the town, you can't help but notice the diversity of the frontier. This wasn't just a land of white cowboys. Chinese laborers, their faces grim with exhaustion, are laying track for the railroad. Mexican families, whose ancestors lived here for generations, tend their shops. Black cowboys, making up nearly a quarter of the ranching workforce, guide herds with quiet competence. European immigrants from Ireland, Germany, Scandinavia, they're all here, building this new world. But this diversity is a powder keg. The brutality of racial violence is a constant, ugly undercurrent. Chinese workers are forced into the most dangerous jobs, paid less, and live under the shadow of the coming Exclusion Act. Mexican landowners see their property stolen through legal trickery or outright force. Black settlers, hoping to escape Southern oppression, find a different, equally entrenched racism here. And for Native Americans, this expansion is nothing short of a catastrophe. It's cultural and physical genocide, forced onto barren reservations. Children ripped from families and sent to boarding schools to have their language, their culture, their very identity beaten out of them. Kill the Indian, save the man, the buffalo, their lifeblood, are being slaughtered by the millions not just for hides, but as a deliberate act of war to break their spirit. You need a place to sleep tonight. You find a hotel. Don't expect luxury. The misery of frontier accommodations awaits. Your room is tiny, the bed likely infested with bedbugs. The sheets, probably not changed since the last guest. Lighting is a single, smoky oil lamp. The bathroom, a shared outhouse in the back, reeking and crawling with flies. In busy times, you might even be expected to share the bed with a stranger. Privacy is a forgotten word. If you're camping outside of town, the night brings its own terrors. The dangers of camping are real. You build a fire not for ambience, but for survival. Build it too big, and you risk sparking a prairie fire that could consume you. Build it too small, and the cold will seep into your bones, leading to hypothermia. You cook your meager meal over the flames, lightly burning it on the outside and leaving it raw within. And as darkness falls, the true isolation sets in. The profound, psychological weight of the wilderness night, the howl of a coyote, the rustle in the brush, the utter, suffocating silence broken only by your own heartbeat. For people used to the hum of civilization, this darkness is terrifying. You sleep with one eye open, listening for the sound of hooves or worse. Native attacks, though statistically rare, were most feared at dawn. Predators, bears, wolves, mountain lions might investigate your camp. A scorpion or snake might seek warmth in your bedroll. The mental strain of this constant, gnawing vigilance is exhausting. It's not just the physical hardship that breaks people on the frontier. It's the unrelenting fear, the crushing loneliness, the knowledge that if something goes wrong, you are utterly, terrifyingly alone. As you finally drift off, the wind howling outside your thin tent wall, you realize the truth. Traveling in the Wild West wasn't an adventure, it was a gamble with death. Every mile, every river crossing, every unfamiliar face, every rustle in the night, it was a test. A test of your body, your mind, and your sheer, dumb luck. The frontier didn't care about your dreams or your destination. It only cared if you were strong enough or lucky enough to survive it. And as the stars wheel overhead, cold and indifferent, you wonder, will you even see the dawn? Day 3. The brutal realities of frontier professions. The morning light filters through the cracks in your cabin walls, and you're awake. Again, your body is a map of yesterday's aches, but there's no time for rest. The frontier doesn't pay you to sleep. It pays you if you're lucky to survive. Today, you're going to work. Not the kind of work you know, with ergonomic chairs and coffee breaks. This is the brutal, unrelenting labor that built the West. Forget the romantic legends. Today, you'll learn why the deadly gamble of mining was a bet most lost. You'll feel the crushing weight of the long-term health toll on miners, lungs filling with dust, fingers trembling from mercury. You'll step into the lawlessness of mining towns, where whiskey flowed like blood and violence was the only law. You'll see how the perils of the banking system turned gold into grief, with paper promises that vanished overnight. You'll saddle up for the harsh realities of ranching, where a single blizzard could erase a lifetime's work. You'll ride the trail with the myth of the cowboy, discovering the sun-scorched, underpaid truth behind the Stetson. You'll break your back on the broken promise of farming, where 160 acres of government land became 160 acres of despair. You'll fight the farmer's constant battles against locusts, drought, and a loneliness that could drive you mad. You'll face the dangers of farm life, where a simple chore could cost you your life. You'll clock in for the exploitation of wage labor, where your body was a machine, and your life, a line item on a ledger. You'll feel trapped in the trap of company towns, shackled by debt and scrip. You'll mark time by the sun, not a clock, in the frontier relationship with time. And when the sun finally sets, you'll find solace in frontier entertainment and leisure, the simple, stolen moments of joy that kept the darkness at bay. You stand at the crossroads of your frontier fate. Will you head for the hills, drawn by the siren song of gold, or the open range, dreaming of cattle and sky, or the endless fields, hoping the earth will be kind? The choice is yours, but the outcome is rarely fair. Let's say you're lured by the glitter. You've heard the stories, nuggets the size of chicken eggs, fortunes made overnight. So you grab your pan and head for the hills. This is the deadly gamble of mining. Forget striking it rich. By the 1870s, the easy pickings are gone. You'll spend hours bent double in ice-cold mountain streams, hands bleeding, back screaming, sifting mud for flakes worth pennies. That's placer mining, the gentle option. If you're truly desperate, you'll descend into the belly of the earth for hard rock mining. Here, the darkness is absolute, the air thick with dust and dread. Cave-ins are a daily prayer unanswered. One wrong blast, one shift in the rock, and you're buried alive, your bones adding to the mountain's foundation. Toxic gases, invisible and odorless, seep through the tunnels, stealing your breath before you even know you're in danger. Dynamite, it's handled like a child's toy, with fingers, eyes, and lives lost in the thunderous, careless explosions. And even if you cheat death today, you've already lost tomorrow. Welcome to the long-term health toll on miners. That fine rock dust you're breathing. It's carving a tomb in your lung silicosis, a slow, choking death. The mercury used to extract gold. It's poisoning your blood, making your hands shake, your mind fog. Lead and copper seep into your bones, a toxic inheritance. You'll be coughing blood by 30, dead by 40. And for what? The perils of the banking system ensure your hard-won dust rarely turns into real wealth. Banks are few, run by men with slick smiles and empty promises. They'll buy your gold at half its worth, or worse, take your life savings and vanish overnight. Paper money. It's a gamble. Counterfeit bills flood the market, and without federal backing, your fortune could be worthless by noon. You carry your gold in your pocket, a walking target for every thief and cutthroat in the lawlessness of mining towns. These aren't towns, they're open wounds, populated by young, desperate men, fueled by rock-gut whiskey that could blind you. Fights erupt over a card game, a look, a breath, sanitation, non-existent. The streets are rivers of mud and filth, breeding cholera and typhoid. You live in a canvas tent, praying the next drunk doesn't set it ablaze. This isn't a community. It's a countdown to your demise. So maybe the mountains aren't for you. You look out at the endless grasslands, the herds of cattle like moving mountains. Ranching. It sounds noble, free. This is the harsh realities of ranching. Freedom. Try debt. Starting a spread costs a fortune: land, cattle, fences, hands. You're mortgaged to the hilt before you even saddle up, and nature is your cruelest creditor. A drought turns your pasture to dust, your cattle to skeletons. A single harsh winter, the Great Die-Up of '86, can freeze 90% of your herd solid, turning your fortune into a field of frozen carcasses. Disease sweeps through like a scythe. Wolves and cougars pick off your calves. And then, the drive. Or, the cattle drive the heart of the cowboy myth. This is the myth of the cowboy. Forget the songs. You're a teenager, maybe 16, earning $30 a month for 20-hour days in the saddle. You sleep in the dirt, eat beans and hardtack, and risk your life every river crossing, every thunderstorm that could trigger a stampede, a wall of 1,500-pound beasts thundering over you, crushing you into the earth. And you're not alone on that trail. A quarter of the men riding beside you are black or Mexican, their faces and stories erased by the very myths they helped create. This isn't freedom. It's indentured servitude under an open sky. Still not convinced? You look at the land, solid and promising. The government gave it to you, 160 acres, free and clear. The Homestead Act, your American dream. Step into the broken promise of farming. That 160 acres. In the arid West, it's a death sentence. You don't have a tractor. You have a mule and a plow. And that prairie sod. It's woven together by roots centuries old. Breaking it is like trying to plow through concrete. It takes a year, maybe two, just to carve out a few acres. Your hands blister, your back breaks. You build your home from the earth itself, a sod house. Dark, damp, crumbling, alive with snakes and insects. And then you plant. This is the farmer's constant battles. The rain doesn't come. The grasshoppers descend, a black, churning cloud that strips your fields bare in hours, eating even the handles off your tools. A late frost kills your tender shoots. Your isolation is crushing. Neighbors are miles away. Your wife, pregnant or just delivered, is out in the field beside you because the work won't wait. This is prairie madness, a despair so deep it drives men to abandon everything, or worse. And even on a good day, safety is an illusion. This is the dangers of farm life. That mule kicks, that axe slips. You fall into a grain silo and suffocate in seconds, buried alive by your own harvest. Your child drowns in the well. Every tool, every animal, every inch of your land is a potential killer. Perhaps you avoid the land, the mines, the herds. You head to town, looking for a steady wage. Surely, this is safer. Welcome to the exploitation of wage labor. The railroad needs men. The sawmill needs hands. The factory needs bodies. You get a job. 10, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. No safety gear, no regulations. That saw blade, unguarded. That train track, laid by men who died in the dynamite blasts. Chinese laborers, paid less, given the deadliest jobs blasting tunnels through mountains, knowing the rock above could bury them at any second. Children, as young as 8, work beside you, their small hands perfect for crawling into machines, their small bodies more easily broken. You complain, you're fired, blacklisted, your name passed around town like a curse. And if you're truly unlucky, you'll find yourself in the trap of company towns. The company owns your house, your store, your life. You're paid in scrip, company money only good at the company store, where prices are triple what they should be. You work to pay off your debt for rent, for food, for the very air you breathe. You can never leave, you're a slave in all but name, your chains forged from paper and debt. In this world, time isn't measured in minutes. It's measured in sunrises and sunsets, in seasons and tasks. This is the frontier relationship with time. You wake with the dawn, work until your hands can't grip, sleep when the sun dips below the horizon. There's no punctuality, only morning or after the cows are in. Your life is a cycle of labor, dictated by the earth and the sky, not the tick of a clock. And yet, there is joy, fleeting, hard won, but real. As the sun finally sinks, painting the sky in fiery hues, you find it. This is frontier entertainment and leisure. It's not a movie or a concert. It's gathering around a fire, passing a single, dog-eared book from hand to hand, reading aloud until the pages fall apart. It's a fiddle striking up a tune, boots stomping on a wooden floor, a moment of wild, sweaty abandon. It's a child's laughter as they play tag in the dust, a shared joke over a game of cards, the profound silence of a star-filled sky that no city light can touch. These moments are your lifeline, the tiny sparks that keep the overwhelming darkness at bay. As you finally collapse onto your bed, every muscle screaming, your lungs heavy with dust or smoke, you understand. The frontier wasn't conquered by heroes, it was endured by laborers. Miners, cowboys, farmers, wage slaves, they were the true architects of the West. Their hands, broken and bleeding, built it. Their lungs, filled with poison, powered it. Their lives, traded for pennies, paid for it. This isn't a story of glory. It's a story of grit, of showing up, day after brutal day, and doing the work, even when the work was killing you. Even when the reward was nothing but another sunrise, and the strength to face it. The wind whispers outside, carrying the scent of sagebrush and distant rain. You close your eyes. Tomorrow, the gamble begins again. Day 4, the essentials of survival, food, family, and health. The morning light filters through the cracks in your cabin walls, and you're awake. Again, your body is a map of yesterday's labor, mining, ranching, farming, but today, the battlefront shifts. Today, you fight for the essentials. Not for gold, or land, or cattle. Today, you fight for food. For your family, for your very health. This is the quiet, grinding war of survival that defined the frontier. Forget the gunfights. The real heroes were the mothers stirring pots at dawn, the fathers setting broken bones with their bare hands, the children working fields before they could read. This is day 4, the essentials of survival, food, family, and health. And it will break your heart. You stand in your kitchen, if you can call it that. There's no refrigerator humming, no pantry stocked with colourful boxes. Just a rough-hewn table, a cast-iron stove, and the heavy, daily burden of the frontier diet and its deficiencies. Breakfast, beans. Again, maybe some hardtack biscuits, teeth-rattlingly tough, and a cup of that bitter, eggshell-laced coffee. Fresh fruit, a memory, vegetables, only if you grew them, and even then, only for a few fleeting months. For most of the year, your diet is a monotonous, soul-crushing parade of salted pork, dried corn, and those damn beans. And it's killing you, slowly. Scurvy isn't just a pirate's disease. Here, on the American frontier, it's a silent epidemic. Your gums bleed, your teeth loosen, your joints scream. All because you haven't tasted an orange in 6 months. Vitamin C. You don't even know the words. You just know the weakness, the pain, the slow creep of death from something as simple as a lack of fresh greens. So, you preserve. You have to. This is the art and necessity of food preservation. Summer isn't just sunshine. It's a desperate race against time. You spend every spare moment smoking meat over acrid fires, packing vegetables into crocks with vinegar and salt, drying fruits until they're leathery husks. You hang hams in the smokehouse, pray the brine penetrates deep enough. Every jar sealed, every root buried in the cellar, is a victory against the coming winter's famine. But it's a fragile victory. The labor-intensive process of cooking is your next trial. You didn't just flip a switch. You hold water gallons of it from the well or the creek, your back screaming with every step. You gathered fuel, wood if you were lucky, but out on the plains. You burned buffalo chips, dried dung because there were no trees. You stoked the fire, fed it, coaxed it, all while stirring a pot that might feed 6 hungry mouths. Cooking wasn't a hobby. It was a full-time, back-breaking job that fell almost entirely on the women, their hands cracked and raw from lye soap and icy water. And the food itself, it's under constant siege. This is the perils of frontier food. That carefully preserved ham, rats got to it. That sack of flour, crawling with weevils, you don't throw it out. You pick out the bugs, or you sift them, or you just eat them. Protein is protein. Contamination is a fact of life. Food poisoning isn't an if, it's a when, and there's no doctor to call, which brings us to the heart of the darkness, the horrors of frontier medicine. If you get sick, you're on your own. The nearest doctor might be 50 miles away, and he likely apprenticed for 6 months and read a single, outdated book. His tools, a rusty saw, a bottle of whiskey, and a terrifying belief in bloodletting. Got a fever? He'll slice open your vein and drain your life away. Convinced he's balancing your humors. Got an infection? He'll pack it with mercury or arsenic poisons that might kill the infection, or just kill you faster. Germ theory, sterilization, anesthesia, fairy tales. If you're truly unlucky, you'll need the nightmare of frontier surgery. A broken leg from a fall, an axe wound gone septic. They'll take you to the kitchen table. They'll pour whiskey down your throat until you pass out or don't. Then, with no numbing, no clean instruments, they'll saw. The sound of bone on metal, your own screams, the smell of burning flesh as they cauterize the stump with a hot iron. Amputation wasn't a last resort. It was the first resort. Survival meant losing a part of yourself. And if you were a woman, God help you. The extreme danger of childbirth was the shadow over every pregnancy. You didn't go to a hospital. You stayed in your bed, surrounded by female neighbors or a midwife, praying the baby came head first. If it didn't, if you hemorrhaged, if you developed childbed fever, there was nothing they could do. 1 in 4 women died giving birth on the frontier. 1 in 4 fathers learned to bury their wives as often as they buried their children. And speaking of children, the reality of frontier childhood is a gut punch. Forget playgrounds and picture books. By age 6, your child is hauling water, feeding chickens, minding the fire. By 10, they're in the fields beside you, their small bodies bent under the same sun, their hands blistered like yours. School, a luxury, if it exists at all. A 1-room shack, heated by a single stove, where a teacher with an 8th grade education tries to teach 20 kids from 6 to 16. Corporal punishment is standard, a ruler across the knuckles for a wrong answer. And the learning, survival skills first. Reading, writing, arithmetic, if there's time. But time is the one thing you never have, because death is a constant playmate. This is the devastatingly high child mortality rate. Measles, whooping cough, diphtheria diseases we vaccinate against today swept through frontier families like scythes. A fever in the night, a rasping cough, and then silence. You bury your child under a small, handmade cross, whisper a prayer, and go back to work, because stopping means starving. You name your next child the same name. It's not sentiment, it's defiance. A refusal to let death erase them completely. The grief is a stone in your chest, but you carry it. You have to, and you carry it alone. This is the crushing weight of isolation. Your nearest neighbor, 3 miles away. In winter, you might not see another adult for weeks. Your wife, in a cabin with 5 children, might not speak to anyone but them for months. The silence isn't peaceful. It's suffocating. It's maddening. This is prairie madness, a despair so deep it hollows you out. Women stared out windows, unblinking. Men walked into the wilderness and never came back. Suicide wasn't rare. It was a whispered, understood tragedy. The loneliness wasn't just sadness. It was a physical force, pressing in, threatening to break your mind. So, you cling to community. This is the vital role of community and churches. When the blizzard hits, it's your neighbors who dig you out. When your barn burns down, it's the men of the town who show up at dawn to raise a new one, timber by timber. The church isn't just for Sunday sermons. It's your social hall, your schoolhouse, your hospital, your support group. The preacher might marry you, bury your child, and mediate your land dispute. These gatherings, the barn raisings, the harvest festivals, the quilting bees are your lifeline. They're where you trade news, share seeds, find a wife for your son, or just feel human again, because surviving this, it takes more than muscle. It takes a specific, almost inhuman, psychological resilience. You have to wake up every day knowing the odds are against you, knowing disease, accident, or the weather could end it all before sunset. You have to bury your friends, your family, and keep planting seeds. You have to smile at your children while your heart is breaking. You have to find joy in a shared song around a fire, in the first ripe tomato of summer, in the simple, profound act of making it through one more day. This isn't optimism, it's endurance. It's the quiet, stubborn refusal to be broken. As the fire in your stove dies to embers, casting long, dancing shadows on the log walls, you sit. You're exhausted, not just in your body, but in your soul. You've fought for food, for your family's health, for your own sanity. You've stared into the abyss of loss and isolation, and somehow, you're still here. The wind moans outside, a reminder of the vast, uncaring wilderness just beyond your door. But inside, for now, there's warmth. There's the sound of your child's steady breathing. There's the smell of wood smoke and the faint, lingering scent of beans. This is the real frontier, not the glory, but the grit. Not the gunfights, but the grinding, daily fight for life itself. It's a story written in calloused hands, in silent tears, in graves marked with simple stones. It's a story of ordinary people performing extraordinary acts of love, labor, and sheer, dumb perseverance. As you finally close your eyes, you understand the Wild West wasn't tamed by bullets. It was endured by breakfasts of beans, by mothers' hands, by the quiet, unbreakable will to see the dawn. Day 5, the end of the frontier, and the birth of a myth. The morning light filters through the cracks in your cabin walls, and you're awake again. But today feels different. Today, you're not just surviving the frontier. Today, you're witnessing its end. And its rebirth not as a place, but as a story, a myth. A legend that will eclipse the truth, burying the grit, the blood, and the broken promises under a golden Hollywood sunset. This is day 5, the end of the frontier and the birth of a myth. And it's the most important day of all. You step outside, and the air smells different. It's not just the familiar stench of manure and wood smoke. There's something new: oil, iron, the acrid tang of industry, the horizon is no longer empty. You see it, the corporate takeover of the West. The lone prospector is gone, replaced by men in suits who never touch the earth. They own the mines now, the railroads, the vast cattle empires, your 160 acres. Swallowed by a land company that bought it 4 pennies when you couldn't pay the taxes after the drought. The frontier wasn't conquered by cowboys. It was bought, sold, and packaged by corporations. The wild, open spaces are being fenced, surveyed, and turned into profit margins. The freedom you chased, it's being auctioned off to the highest bidder. And what fueled this takeover? The iron horse. The exploitative relationship with nature is reaching its zenith. You don't see the forests anymore, not like you did. They've been clear-cut, hauled away on those new rail lines to build cities back east. The rivers, they're choked with mine tailings, poisoned by mercury and arsenic, killing the fish, killing the life. You used to drink from that stream. Now, you wouldn't let your dog near it. The land isn't sacred. It's a resource, a commodity, something to be extracted, exploited, and exhausted. And nothing embodies this brutal calculus more than the deliberate extermination of the buffalo. You ride out onto the plains, and the silence is deafening. Where are they? The thundering herds, millions strong, that once painted the earth brown and alive, gone, reduced to less than 1,000 by 1884. This wasn't hunting. This was genocide, a government-sanctioned slaughter. Generals like Philip Sheridan didn't hide their intent: kill, skin, and sell until the buffalo is exterminated. It is the only way to bring lasting peace. Peace for whom? Not for the Lakota, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho. For them, the buffalo was life food, shelter, tools, spirit. Destroy the buffalo, and you destroy their world. You force them onto barren reservations, starve them into submission. This wasn't progress, it was annihilation, and it worked, which brings us to the cultural apocalypse for Native Americans. The reservation isn't just a piece of land, it's a prison for the soul. You see children, small and terrified, being loaded onto trains. Destination, boarding schools. Their long hair, sated and strong, is sheared off. Their beautiful languages are beaten out of them. Their songs, their dances, their very names erased. The motto echoes in your mind, chilling and cruel. Kill the Indian, save the man. This is cultural genocide, a systematic, state-sponsored effort to wipe out entire civilizations, not with bullets alone, but with shame, with silence, with the theft of identity. The treaties, broken, the promises, lies, the manifest destiny you heard about back east. It's written in the tears of a mother watching her child taken away. But the frontier wasn't just white settlers and native nations. It was a tapestry, woven with threads from across the globe, and every thread was frayed by prejudice. This is systemic discrimination against diverse groups. Look at the railroad. Who's laying those tracks through the Sierra Nevada? Chinese men, their backs bent, their lives sacrificed in dynamite blasts and avalanches. Paid less, housed worse, and when the work is done, kicked out. The Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 slams the door shut. The first law to ban an entire nationality. Look at the Mexican vaquero, whose skills taught the cowboy everything he knows. His land, stolen through rigged courts and racist laws. Look at the black cowboy, a quarter of the trail hands, riding, roping, surviving. His story, erased from the dime novels, the posters, the silver screen. The West was diverse, yes, but it was a hierarchy, brutal and unforgiving, where your skin, your accent, your birthplace decided your worth. As the sun climbs, you ride into town. It's changing, fast. The wooden shacks are being replaced by brick buildings. There's a bank now, a proper school, a newspaper office. This is the taming of the frontier. The saloon brawl, replaced by a town council meeting. The vigilante hanging, replaced by a judge and a gavel. The sheriff, once a man with a quick draw, is now a bureaucrat filing reports. The chaos is being ordered. The wild is being civilized, but at what cost? The freedom, the raw, untamed spirit that drew you here. It's being paved over, regulated, and sanitized. The frontier is dying, not with a bang, but with the quiet click of a telegraph key. And as it dies, something else is being born. In the saloons, in the general stores, in the mail-order catalogs, you hear the whispers, the stories, the lies. This is the mythologization of outlaws and lawmen. The truth is messy, wired up. A gambler, a brothel keeper, a man who blurred the line between lawman and outlaw, Billy the Kid. A scared kid caught in a cycle of violence, Jesse James. A Confederate terrorist turned bank robber. But the stories, they're cleaner, simpler. Heroes in white hats, villains in black. The gunfight at the OK Corral. A messy, confusing street brawl becomes a noble, 30-second duel. The myth needs clear lines. The reality was a moral swamp. And who's selling these myths? Not the people who live them. This is the birth of the Western myth, Wild West shows and dime novels. Back east, in comfortable parlors, they're devouring it. Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show staged battles, fake attacks, caricatures of native warriors. Dime novels churned out by Eastern writers who'd never seen a prairie, filled with square-jawed heroes and shrieking savages. They're not documenting history, they're creating a fantasy. A fantasy of noble conquest, of inevitable progress, of a simple, righteous America. They're selling the frontier back to the people who destroyed it, polished and perfect. And then, the final nail in the coffin of truth, Hollywood's role in cementing the myth, the flickering images on the silver screen. John Wayne, Gary Cooper, the sweeping vistas, the stirring music, the final, righteous shootout. Hollywood didn't just tell stories, it built a religion of American exceptionalism, of manifest destiny, of the lone hero who tames the wilderness with his six-shooter. It gave the nation a creation myth, simple, satisfying, and utterly false. It erased the Chinese laborer, the Mexican rancher, the black cowboy, the native child in the boarding school. It turned genocide into a necessary evil, exploitation into pioneering spirit. It made the complex, painful, beautiful, terrible truth into a 2-hour distraction. So, what's left? What's the enduring legacy and complex truths? The myth is powerful. It's in our bones. It tells us we're rugged individualists, destined to conquer. But the truth is harder. It's in the reservation, still fighting for sovereignty. It's in the corporate farms, still exploiting the land. It's in the ghost towns, monuments to boom and bust. It's in the laws, the water rights, the property deeds, all born from that chaotic, violent, transformative time. The real legacy isn't in the movies, it's in the systems. It's in the ongoing struggle for justice, for the land, for the truth. It's a legacy of breathtaking courage and unspeakable cruelty, woven together so tightly you can't pull one thread without unraveling the whole. As the sun begins to set, painting the sky in fiery hues, you find yourself at a crossroads. Literally, a stagecoach rumbles past, heading east. On the side, a garish poster flaps in the wind. Buffalo Bill's Wild West. See the real frontier. You almost laugh, the real frontier. It's right here, in the dust on your boots, in the ache in your bones, in the silence where the buffalo once roared. The myth is heading east to be sold. The truth, it's staying here, buried, but not gone. This is the final reflection. The frontier wasn't a place you conquered. It was a test you endured. It broke more people than it made. It was a story of ordinary, desperate, resilient humans, not heroes, but survivors. Men, women, and children of every color and creed, pushed to their absolute limits by a land that gave nothing freely. They built, they broke, they loved, they lost, they killed, they died. And in their dying, in their suffering, in their quiet, uncelebrated perseverance, they built the bones of a nation that would spend the next century trying to forget how it was made. The wind picks up, carrying the scent of sagebrush and distant rain. It also carries the faint, tinny echo of a calliope from Buffalo Bill's show, miles away. The sound of the myth marching on, you turn your back on it. You look out at the vast, empty land, the real land, beautiful, brutal, unforgiving, alive. The frontier is ending. But it's truth that will never die, not as long as someone remembers. Not as long as someone tells the real story. The stars begin to pierce the twilight, cold and ancient. The same stars that guided the first peoples, the settlers, the outlaws, the dreamers, the broken. They don't care about myths. They only care about the truth. And tonight, under their indifferent gaze, you hold it. The whole, terrible, magnificent truth. The morning light won't filter through your cabin walls tomorrow. Your journey through the American Wild West of the 1870s is over. You've survived 5 brutal, unvarnished days. 5 days of waking up to the stench of survival, of navigating towns that were graveyards in disguise, of breaking your body in mines, on ranches and in fields, of fighting for every scrap of food, for the life of your child, for your own sanity, against the crushing weight of isolation. 5 days of witnessing the end of a world and the birth of a lie. So, what's the conclusion? What's the final, gut-punch truth you carry back with you? You wouldn't have made it, not for long, not without breaking, not without losing a part of yourself, your health, your family, your mind. The frontier didn't care about your courage or your dreams. It only cared if you were strong enough, lucky enough, and ruthless enough to endure. The average lifespan was 35. Childbirth was a death sentence. A simple cut could rot your leg off. Your boots might house a scorpion. Your coffee tasted like dirt and eggshells. And the silence, the vast, empty, terrifying silence, it could drive you mad. This wasn't a land of heroes. It was a land of survivors, miners coughing their lungs out for pennies, cowboys freezing on cattle drives, paid less than the horses they rode, women breaking sod with bleeding hands, burying children in unmarked graves, Chinese laborers blasting tunnels, knowing the mountain might bury them, native families watching their world, their buffalo, their very souls, be systematically erased, all in the name of progress. And that's the second, even harder truth. The Wild West, you know, the one of gleaming pistols, noble sheriffs, and sun-drenched heroics, is a myth, a beautiful, powerful, dangerous lie. It was born in the dime novels, churned out by Eastern writers who never smelled a prairie wind. It was sold in Buffalo Bill's garish Wild West shows, where the genocide of a people was turned into a 2-bit circus act. It was cemented in Hollywood, where complex, brutal, morally grey realities were sanded down into simple stories of good guys and bad guys, where the only colour that mattered was the black hat or the white one. They sold you a legend because the truth was too ugly, too complicated, too stained with blood and exploitation to be a national fairy tale. They needed a myth to justify the conquest, to turn broken treaties and cultural annihilation into manifest destiny, to transform corporate greed and environmental rape into taming the wilderness. But here's the final, quiet revelation, the one that lingers, like wood smoke in your clothes. The real legacy of the frontier isn't in the myths. It's in the grit. It's in the calloused hands that built a nation not with speeches, but with sweat and silent tears. It's in the mothers who cooked over buffalo chip fires, the fathers who set broken bones with their bare hands, the children who worked fields before they could read. It's in the communities that raised barns together, shared their last scrap of food, and found stolen moments of joy in a fiddle-esque song under a sky ablaze with stars so bright, so vast, they made you feel both insignificant and profoundly connected to something ancient. The frontier broke more people than it made. It was a story of breathtaking courage and unspeakable cruelty, woven together so tightly you can pull one thread without unraveling the whole. Its true monuments aren't in bronze statues of gunslingers, but in the systems it forged, the laws, the land rights, the scars on the land, the ongoing fight for justice, that echoes from those 19th century plains to our streets today. So, as you step back into your world of soft beds, clean water, antibiotics, and instant connection, carry this truth with you. Honor the real people. The unnamed, unglamorous, extraordinary, ordinary souls who endured the unendurable. The Wild West is gone, buried under asphalt and myth, but its spirit, its raw, desperate, magnificent, terrible spirit, that lives on, not in the movies, but in the resilience of the human heart, in the quiet understanding that sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is simply wake up, shake out your boots, and face the dawn.